Okay, so today what we will discuss is we will discuss the architecture in which is there any architecture available which can do something like this. Can anybody tell me what kind of response this is? Like this one we are saying is low pass response because it is passing the low frequencies and rejecting the high frequencies. Can anybody tell me what is this particular kind of response we call like?
High pass
Yeah,
response.
yeah.
High pass.
This one is high pass response because it is passing the high frequencies and keeping and the low frequencies are retained are cancelled out. So let us discuss. Basically, what kind of architecture will create this type of response. So to do that, what you have to do is you have to use this particular type of circuit. If you have a voltage source here, which is V in, and then you have a capacitor here which is C1 and a resistance R1 this side, and this is your V out. So this particular type of circuit will give you a high pass response. So let us see how it is possible. So if you want if you write KCL here, then what you will get is you will get V in minus KCL or KVL, whatever you call, you will get 1 over SC1 I1 minus I1 R1 equal to 0, like this. So once you get this, what will be the, or maybe this is a crude way of doing it. The easiest way is, as it's a voltage divider, because you have one is this impedance, another one is this impedance. So it's simply the division of the voltage. So you can write straight away V out as R1 over R1 plus 1 over SC1 times V in. So it's nothing but a voltage divider. As you might recall that if you have a circuit like this, if you have R1 here, R2 here, and it's ground this side, and if you want to calculate the voltage at this point, which is, let us say, Vx, then this is nothing but it's easily written as R2 over R1 plus R2 times V in. This is a voltage divider actually. So I am using that same thing here. So your R1 is this one, and then this R1 is again here, and then we have a impedance of the capacitor which is 1 over SC1. So it's as simple as that. If you have any confusion here, let me know. Otherwise, I will rewrite this expression again. So V out by V in is nothing but it is SC1 R1 over 1 plus SC1 R1. So in this particular circuit, if you want to write the absolute value of the voltage gain, because it's a complex number, because S is normally written as S is equal to j omega. So since it's a complex number, so if you want to calculate the modulus of the complex number, so what you do is you just substitute this here, and then what you get is omega square. What you will get is not omega square, omega r1 c1 divided by under root of 1 plus omega square r1 square c1 square, like this. So this is what you will get when you will take the absolute value of this particular quantity. Now the important thing is, if s is in this particular thing, if s is 0, then what you will get? You will get 0 as the output. If you put s is equal to 0 here, the output will be 0. So that means if you want to plot the frequency response over here, then if s is 0, this particular voltage gain is basically 0. So you will have a 0 over here. And if s is infinite, so if s is infinite, this particular expression will go to 1. You can check this out, it's very easy. You take the SC1 R1 out, and then it cancels out from the numerator and denominator, and what you are left with is this expression like this. So once s tends to infinity, the whole of the numerator divided by the denominator becomes equal to 1. So this means when s is infinity, you have 1. So, so now what is happening? That as you increase your S from 0 to infinity, the response of the filter looks like this. So it's going from S is equal to 0 to S is equal to, it's going from Vs is equal to 0 to 1 as you increase the frequency from 0 to infinity. And again, we can use that same logic that when omega is equal to 1 over R1 C1, at this value, what will be the voltage, the modulus of V out by V in? The modulus of V out by V in at this particular point will be 1 over root 2. And if you take the 20 log of this expression, you will get minus 3 dB value. So that is what is, this point. So at this point you have 1 over root 2. And this is your 3 dB point, where the voltage gain falls to 1 over root 2. And this value is actually governed by 1 over R1 C1. So if you change the value of R1, or if you change the value of C1, or if you change both, or if you keep fixed one and change another one, the 3 dB value of this particular filter will change accordingly. So this is the 3 dB frequency for this particular filter. Any question here regarding this? So if there are no questions, so earlier when we discussed this architecture, which is again I'll repeat, earlier we discussed this architecture, right? And we discussed that where it is actually used practically in the analog circuits. In the same way, today we will discuss that where we are using this type of architecture, which is this one, where we are using this architecture, where you can find this type of architecture. So let us discuss this. So first practical thing where you will see this type of architecture is, I will show that first. So if you have something like this, let us say, if you have something like this, R1, R2, R3, and then you have VDD, right? So you must have seen in the books that people will draw something like this. These are the resistors that are used to bias this MOSFET M1 properly. And then as we discussed last time, we will apply a voltage signal here, a small voltage signal here, and then this voltage signal is actually attached using the capacitor. This I think maybe I have not discussed, or maybe I have discussed or not. I cannot recall. But normally, what happens is, if you want to apply a small signal V in to this particular architecture, you have to use it through a capacitor C, which you apply from outside. And similarly, at the output also you put a capacitor C2. Here it is, let us say C1, and then you apply a load resistance RL, and then you take V out. So normally you will see something like this. So these C1 and C2 which I am writing over here are the external capacitance. They are the external capacitance. Why they are called as external capacitance? Because you are actually putting it by yourself. Sometimes you will also see some capacitor this side also. So this is also external capacitance. So if this is the case, what you will find is this type of architecture which is given over here, you can see it now here. Like if you focus on this topology here, if you focus only on this side, so what you can do is, when you try to write the small signal equivalent of this, what will be that? It will be like the voltage VDD will be grounded, because it's a small signal equivalent you are drawing. So if it is grounded, so this resistance R1 is grounded. So what you can do is, you can draw resistance R1 like this also, and you can remove it from here because it is grounded. So once you have done this, then if you observe this particular architecture here, if you observe this particular architecture, this is basically the this is basically the architecture which is similar to this architecture. So this is actually responsible for the gain to fall off here at this point. So this is basically responsible for the gain to fall off at low frequencies. You can see here. This is the main factor that is responsible for it, and you can see this is actually responsible for gain to fall off at low factors in the lower part of the gain. So this is the practical way from where you can see this CR combination is coming. And for the other one, the one which is shown over here, let me go to that circuit back. For this one, the practical thing that you can see is this type of architecture. So this CL is basically internal to this MOSFET M1. We will see how this CL is internal to this MOSFET M1. So what happens is, the internal capacitances, of the MOSFETs which we have discussed are responsible for this type of architecture. These are the internal capacitances which are responsible for this type of architecture, and then this will actually create the problems, and what will happen is it will make your gain fall off at the high frequency. So please note, when the gain is falling at high frequency, it is because of the internal capacitance of the MOSFETs, which is these capacitors which are present here, the internal capacitances which we discussed last time, the internal capacitances which are present in the MOSFET. But if the gain is falling at the low frequency, this low falling frequency, this falling of the gain is because of the external capacitance which are present here, all these external capacitance. So if you see, in books, you will see something like this. The response, the gain of the amplifier versus the frequency. So what you observe is, at lower frequency also the gain is falling, at higher frequency also the gain is falling. So if you divide this frequency response into two parts, if I divide it into two parts, so you can observe that this one is basically which kind of behavior? It is a high pass behavior. And this part, what is the behavior of this particular response? It's a low pass.
Low pass.
So that means you are combining the two circuits together, like the high pass in cascade with the low pass. So the roll off, the voltage gain which is getting down this side because of the high pass characteristic is coming because of these capacitances C1, C3 and C2. So whenever we are analyzing the the low frequency part, because this is actually a low frequency part of the operation, and this is normally called as high frequency region. This region is basically high frequency region, and this particular region in between is called as mid band. This is called as mid band region, where the gain is constant. So below this mid band it is low frequency, and above this mid band is high frequency. So now you note that when you are in the low frequency region, the capacitance which will be responsible for that is external capacitances which are here, C1, C2, C3. Whereas when you are in high frequency region, the capacitance which are responsible for rolling off of the gain is the internal capacitances like CGD and CGS. Then you have, this particular capacitance which is CD bulk, and then there is one more capacitance here, that is CS bulk. So all these capacitance which are internal are responsible in case of in high frequency region. So here you have CDB, CGS, C SB, CDB. All these capacitance will come into play, and the other capacitance which are C1, C2, C3, they are all short circuit. All these capacitances are short circuit, but these capacitance will be there. Whereas in this part, in the low frequency part, all the internal capacitance CDB, CGS, CSB, CDB, all of them will be open circuit, and the only ones which are present are C1, C2, C3. They will be present when you are performing low frequency analysis. The internal capacitance of the MOSFETs will be open circuited. Whereas in this case, when you are in midband region, what will happen? C1, C2, C3, all these capacitance which are applied externally are short circuit, and internal capacitance which are CGS, CGD, CSB, CBS, they are all open circuit. So that region is called as midband region. And the gain equations that you have derived prior to your first semester exam, like whatever gain that you were deriving at that time was actually midband gain. And if you remember that, you are not caring about all these capacitances which are there, because you are either taking them as short or you are either taking them as open. So there was no capacitance role played. So that's why you were writing midband gain as GMRL or something like that. There was no capacitance. So whatever analysis you did prior to your first semester exam was midband gain analysis. But now we are interested in, you know getting understand the roles of these capacitance in the voltage gain analysis. So that's why we are interested in these regions, like in this regions, a high pass region, and in the in the low pass region, and in the high pass region. So now we are interested in this and this. Any questions here regarding this? Okay, so this is the one of the practical way of understanding that how this particular type of architecture is coming into play. The second explanation is this. So let us say you have a resistance RD here, and then you have a MOSFET M1 here, and then you have V in this side, and what happens is you have you are connecting this particular circuit to this circuit. Let us say you are connecting like this. So if you connect like this, will there be any problem or not? Can anybody tell me, like, will this type of thing work or not? Any one of you, any student can answer me this question? Like, will this, when I will connect this particular output MOSFET, output of this MOSFET M1 directly to the input of this MOSFET M2, and I'm thinking of getting the output voltage V out, will it work? Any of you can answer?
Yes, sir, it will work.
Okay, it will work. How many of you say it will work? 1, 2, 4, 5. Will it work? 1, 2, 4, 5. Are you there? 1, 1, 9, 8. Okay, and 1005?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the thing is, uh, it will not work actually. I will explain you why it will not work. So here you see for this particular configuration, in this particular configuration, if you want MOSFET M1 to work in as an amplifier, the minimum voltage that you require here is, if you remember, it is VGS minus VDS has to be less than VTH if you wanted it to be saturation, right? So once you take VG minus VD less than VTH, so what is the value of VD that is required? VD has to be greater than VG minus VTH. It has to be greater than VG minus VTH for this MOSFET. So this value has to be, this is the value of VD and has to be greater than VG minus VTH. So the problem is, this is okay, no problem. But now once you connect this thing to this, let us see what minimum voltage is required here so that this MOSFET M2 works properly. So in order to make this MOSFET M2 work properly, we know there are two conditions. One is that VGS2 has to be greater than VTH2. That is the first condition. If it is less than VTH2, then obviously your MOSFET will be in cutoff. And the second condition is that VGS minus VDS has to be less than VTH2. That is also the important condition for it to be in saturation. So here you note one thing, that VG minus VD is less than VTH is always satisfied because VD is actually VDD here. So this is actually at the maximum point. So this VG is actually, some way or the other will always be smaller than VDD. So this condition is satisfied. There is no problem here. But let us check this condition, whether this condition is, satisfied or not. So we want actually this condition also to be satisfied, because if this is not satisfied, the MOSFET M2 will be in cutoff region. So we want MOSFET M2 to not be in cutoff but in saturation. For saturation, this is already satisfied. So let us see what minimum voltage is required here so that it's in cutoff. It's in saturation. So to avoid cutoff, what we want is VG minus VS should be greater than VTH2 from here. Then what is VG2? What is VG2 here? The VG2, which is this thing is VG2. We are saying it is a VG2. So VG2 will be greater than VS2 plus VDS2. Okay, so and what is VS2? This VS2. VS2 is this potential here. And this potential VS2 is actually, it's a current source here, I1. And you know that we can replace this current source by a MOSFET which looks like this. I told you already that if you have a constant voltage applied to the MOSFET, it behaves like a current source. So if it is a current source, the minimum voltage that you require here is VD set. If you remember, if it's a current source, if you want the circuit to operate as a current source, this is the behavior of the current source. And this behavior is only possible if you are greater than VD set. That's why I'm writing it as VD set here, because at this point only, at this region only, it's behaving as a current source. So that's why this VS2 has to be at least VD set of 1 plus VDH2. And it has been found that this value, the value that I have calculated here, actually it's approximately 700 millivolts. If you calculate it for any, for a particular technology, it will be somewhere around 700 millivolts. Whereas this particular voltage, which we have calculated earlier, this value will be somewhere around 200 millivolts. So you can see now that one voltage is 200 millivolts, another voltage is required here is 700 millivolts. So if you connect this point to this point, then this 700 millivolts will interfere with 200 millivolts and it will result in some problem, and ultimately the value will settle down somewhere around 200 millivolts or less than that or somewhere in between, but it will not be more than 700 millivolts. As a result of which, what will happen? The MOSFET M2 will become cut off. So it will not work because the potentials are different. Here you want 700 millivolts, but here you want 200 millivolts. So when you are connecting, the requirement is different at both the ends. So in order to solve this problem, what people do is they break this circuit into two parts and they apply a capacitor here in between. So as you know, if you apply a capacitor, it will not allow the DC voltages to pass through it. So once you apply a capacitor, then it will solve the problem. Then 700 millivolts can be here, this side, and 200 millivolts can be this side. And you can observe that this type of topology is actually, some way or the other resembling this type of external capacitances that we are applying here. You see here we are applying external capacitances from outside. So this is also a external capacitance that we are applying, and this type of capacitance actually are responsible for low frequency behavior of the gain. So this is the second point I wanted to tell you. Like, you can find these type of practical, you know, scenarios where you will find this type of thing. So any questions here regarding this discussion?
Sir,
Yes.
the 200 and 700 are calculated values, otherwise it will work.
No, see, the thing is,
Is it always like that only, like around 200
no, no, no,
millivolt?
no, no. This is just for your understanding. It will be different, but the main concept is that the main concept is that these two voltages will be different and they will be very much different. So one will be, let us say, 5, another one will be 50. So that is a way of making you understand that the differences between these voltages will be too large, and if you connect them straight away, it will create problems. This 200 and 700 millivolts which I am writing here is for a particular technology. So if you are right now working, let us say, on 50 nanometer technology, these voltages will change. It will be, let us say, 10 millivolt this side, and this will be like, let us say, 100 millivolts. So the basic idea is to tell you that the voltages are too different, and how to address these two voltages which are totally different by applying capacitor in between. That is the thing. Okay, so once it is done, so let us do a small exercise where you have, this particular circuit, this side here, and then you have a MOSFET here, M1. This is your V in, and this is your MOSFET M2, and this is your V out. So, my question to you is, can you calculate the internal capacitances of these MOSFETs M1 and M2? And let me know what are these capacitances, and what will that be. Like, I want to know which capacitances will be effective here, which capacitances will not be effective here. So I am giving you 2 to 3 minutes or 5 minutes. You take 5 minutes and answer me this question, that which capacitances, the internal capacitances of M1 or M2 are active, and let me know that. So we will discuss and resume our discussion after. Okay, so are you able to solve the question? Any one of you? One 1198? Okay. And 1242?
No, sir.
1245? 1005.
Sir, maybe MOSFET M1 will have a effect of internal capacitance and M2 will remain active.
No, it's not about that. What I was asking is different type of capacitances that are present here and how we can write these values of the capacitance. Okay, I will show you that how to do it. Just a second. So the thing is, if you see here, what I was asking is, let us replace all these MOSFETs by their capacitances. So, okay, tell me one by one, what will this capacitor be? What we will call this capacitor as?
CGD.
Okay, this is CGD1 here. Okay, and then we have one capacitance this side. What is this capacitor?
CGS1.
Okay,
CGS.
right, and we have one bulk terminal here, and this bulk terminal also is normally grounded. So if we connect, there is one more capacitance this side. What is this capacitance now? This one is CD1,
CDB.
B.
right? And this one will be what? Now there is one more capacitance which is connected between the source terminal and the bulk, which we call as CSB1,
B1.
CSB.
right? So this is
Yes.
this is the first thing, and now we will do that same thing for the other one, and let's go with that. So here, if you see, what you will call this capacitor as? What is this capacitor?
CG.
CGS.
Is
No, it is
CGD.
not CG. It is CGD.
CGD.
Please note it's PMOS. So it will be
CGD.
CGD2, right? And then we have one capacitor this side. This capacitor will be CGS2.
S.
Okay,
Yes.
and then note one more important thing. We have a bulk terminal for MOSFET M2 also, and this MOSFET M2, which is a PMOS terminal, it's normally connected to the voltage
VDD.
VDD. Okay, so here you will have one more capacitor, and the value will be CS2,
SB.
right? And
Yes.
and then we have one more capacitor like the one which we have here on the top bottom. So this one will be there, and this is CDB2. Understood? So we have
Yes.
actually
Yes.
four capacitance for both of them. Like M1 will have four and M2 will have four. So now the important thing is, let us see which capacitances are effective, which capacitances are not effective. Can you tell me, students, like which one will be zero? Which capacitances will be zero? Can anybody tell me here?
So CSB1 mostly it is
Acha, why it will be zero?
because like uh वो दोनों grounds के बीच
Right,
में है.
good, good. So CSB1 will be 0 because both the points of these capacitances are grounded. So it is 0. So let us remove this because it is 0. There is no point in keeping it. Any other capacitance can you find which is 0?
CSB2.
CSB2. Why it is 0?
It's the same reason like grounded.
It is connected to VDD.
Okay. So what you are saying is CSB2 is also 0 because it is connected to VDD, because your bulk terminal is also VDD connected, and your source terminal is also VDD connected. So that's why you are saying it's 0. So right, you are right. Both of them will be 0. So this is also gone. And how about any other one is there or not? Look carefully and you will get to know which one is that. There is one more capacitance which is 0.
CDB1.
CDB1, CDB1. No, it is not 0 because one node is already at this point and another one is grounded, so it cannot be 0. So if you are not able to find it out, the capacitance which is 0 is CGD2. And why it's CGD2? Because you see here the MOSFET M2 is diode connected. So if it is diode connected, both the potentials are at same point. So again with the same logic, this particular capacitance will also go away, because at both the ends of these capacitors are at same potential. That's why it is gone. So how many capacitances are left? We are left with total of 5 capacitances. So this way you have to look for, for the circuits, even in your exam or somewhere you will, you have to see how the circuits, the internal capacitances of circuits are there and how to find them out. So this is an exercise for that. So now what we will do is we will make it, more proper. So let us say we have here, M1, then we have here M2. So this is your M2, this is your VDD, and this is your connection here. So let us now draw the capacitances. So the first capacitance that we have here is at the input point, and this capacitance is CGS1. And now there is a second capacitance which is this. This is also called as feedback capacitor, and because of this feedback capacitor we will have Miller effect. If you remember, we were discussing Miller effect where there is a capacitance between the input and the output. This is that same capacitor which is now coming here. It's a Miller effect capacitor. And now if I want to write the capacitance at this point, what will that be? One is CDB1. Any other capacitance can I write here? Can I write plus writing something else also? Can I do that? You remember that we have this capacitors also, right? This capacitance is there, right? It is connected to
CDB2.
it is
Yes, yes.
it is connected to the drain point, so we can bring it down because this is also grounded in small signal equivalents. This is also grounded, so we can connect this capacitor which is here to the ground. So that's why we can write it as CDB2. And how about the capacitance, this capacitance? Can we write it here or not? Can we write this capacitance? Because this point is connected to again drain terminal and this point is grounded. So can we write this thing?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is the thing. So so you can see now that how your this particular MOSFET, how the internal capacitances of that are lumped together. Lumped together means how they are lumped means added together and kept at one position. So this position is input position and this position is output position. So you can see now how we have taken all these capacitance and saw that okay, these capacitors are short, these are open or something like that, and how we can make it like this. So now we can see that there are three main capacitances which are responsible for high frequency behavior. So these capacitances are actually responsible for reducing the gain at high frequency because they are the internal capacitances. So this is basically a small exercise for you to identify which are the internal capacitances, how to find them, how to lump them together, and there may be a point that there are some circuits where it's not necessary that you will have only capacitance at this point and at this point, that is at input and output. There may be a situation where there will be capacitances which are somewhere here also. So it depends upon your architecture. So it doesn't mean that the way I am right. This particular example is like that you have a capacitance at input, at the output, and in between. But it's not necessary. Depending upon the architecture, you have to find out which capacitances are short circuited, which are there. So this is a simple exercise for making you understand how to do that. So let us move forward. And now we will understand the frequency response of the common source amplifier. Frequency response of common source amplifier. Earlier what we did in our prior to our first sem exam was the midband gain of the common source amplifier. But now we want to understand that okay, for this common source amplifier we know that the midband gain is GMRL, which you have already calculated and you have done it so many times, and depending upon the configuration of the common source amplifier this midband gain can be different, but for the simple case it is GMRL. But now we want to understand that if we reduce the frequencies, how this gain will go down from here and down from this side. So we want to write a complete frequency response equation, and we want to analyze this part and this part separately. And then we already know about this part because here we have done it prior to your first, prior to this exam which you had taken. All the analysis that we had done in our earlier work was this midband gain. So now we will do this and this part. So in order to do the low frequency part first, we will do low frequency part first and then we will go to high frequency part. So let's discuss the low frequency part. So let us see, we have this architecture here. Which is given like this. And this is the capacitance C1, and then we have V. So now I want to understand the low frequency region of it. So can you tell me, you have these capacitances also here, like you have this capacitance also there, CGD. You have this capacitance also, CGS. Then you have one capacitance here also, and one capacitance this side also. So now my main interest is to understand the low frequency analysis. I want to do low frequency analysis. Can you tell me which capacitances I am not caring about here? Any one of you? Like if I want to, yes, yes, good. So we will be only interested in C1. Other ones will be all infinity. They all will be infinite. So we are open circuiting them. So if we are open circuiting them, let's remove all these internal capacitance. So we removed them. Now we are only interested in this capacitance. So now you note one thing. We have an internal potential here at this point, which is Vx, and this is your V out. So if you want to calculate V out by V in, you can do it in two steps. One is you calculate Vx by V in, that is you calculate the gain between this V in and Vx, and then you multiply it by V out by Vx. So if you do like this, your Vx and Vx will cancel out, and then you will get V out by V in. So what we can do is we have to calculate these individual gains separately. So let's do that. So let me copy this. So I want to calculate Vx by V in. So let's do this. So you know that when we are doing the frequency analysis, all these voltages which are VDD here will be grounded. So if it is grounded, you can bring this R1 down and you can write it like this. So this will go away, and you can bring this RD also down and you can write it like this. So basically the circuit reduces to this. So now this is your Vx. So now what we want is we want to calculate Vx by V in. So Vx by V in is very simple. you can see here the current going to the MOSFET is 0. So if the current is going to the MOSFET is 0, then it's a simple voltage divider. If you remember, this particular circuit which I am focusing here, we have already analyzed it. We have already analyzed this circuit or not? This circuit is already being analyzed, so it's a simple voltage divider. So the value will be Vx is equal to R1 parallel R2 divided by R1 parallel R2 plus 1 over SC1 times Vin. So your Vx by Vin will be R1 parallel R2 divided by R1 parallel R2 plus 1 over SC1. So this is the voltage divider thing that we have discussed. And one thing to note is, again, this part is basically responsible for your reducing the gain at low frequencies. If you remember, this particular topology here has a frequency response which looks like this. So this particular architecture is responsible for this fall in the gain. So this is Vx by Vin. So we have Vx by Vin which is given over here. So now our next target is to calculate V out by Vx. So V out by Vx is very simple. So if you remember, what you have to do now, let me copy this. So what you have to do now is, you replace this M1 here by its small signal equivalent. So you can replace it by its small signal equivalent, which is like this. And I am assuming right now that your lambda is 0 here. So you can replace it by a small signal equivalent, which is this side, and this is your VGS. So if this is the situation, then I think it is easy for you to write the equations for your VGS thing, and I think it's not that tough. But the thing is, what you have to do now is, you have to focus on this part of the circuit. So now if I focus on this part of the circuit, then I can write V out as minus GM VGS times RD. So can I write it or not? Because this is, the current is flowing like this. So you can write V out as minus GM VGS times RD. So you can write V out as minus GM times VG minus Vs times RD. What is VG? VG is Vx. And what is Vs? Let us say this node is S, so I am writing it as Vs times RD. Now the second thing is, I can write this potential also. This potential Vs will be Gm VGS times Rs. Can I write it or not? Because this current which is here is flowing like this. So Vs is Gm VGS times Rs. So here you can write it as Gm. What is Vg? Vg is your Vg minus Vs times Rs. So if you take Vs from here, combine it together, what you get is like this: Gm Rs Vg. So what you get is Vs in terms of VGS, Gm Rs over 1 plus Gm Rs times Vg. So now what you can do is, you can actually, what is Vg? Vg is nothing but Vx. So you can write it as Gm Rs over 1 plus Gm Rs times Vx. So now you can, substitute this value here, and what you get is you will get V out is equal to minus GM Vx minus GM Rs over 1 plus GM Rs times Vx times Rd. So if you solve this, what you get? You will get GM Rd over 1 plus GM Rs times Vx times V out. So that means you are having V out by Vx as minus GM Rd over 1 plus GM Rs. And what about the another one, which is this Vx by Vin? Let us copy this here. So your Vx by Vin is this. So if you want to calculate V out by Vin, what is the answer? Answer is minus GMRD over 1 plus GMRS times R1 parallel R2 over R1 parallel R2 plus 1 over SC1. So you are getting another factor, which is this one. This you already know. You have already calculated this. If you remember, this expression is known to you because it's a common source amplifier with the resistance at the source terminal. The equation of the gain is this. So this is already, you know, it's a mid-band gain actually, because when you did this analysis, you were not taking any capacitance into consideration, so it's a mid-band gain. So you can also write like this, you know, if you remember, we have a mid-band gain divided by 1 plus S over omega P1. We were writing it like that, right? When we started this frequency response discussion. So you can represent this particular thing in this format also, where AV naught is this. This is your AV naught. This is your AV naught, and you can, you know, it's very easy to write in this format. You can, you know, you can manipulate this particular term to become like this. So this is basically the voltage gain V out by V in as a function of S. So this is important. So any questions here regarding this? Okay, so if you have understood this, it's good. So this is basically the low frequency response of this particular amplifier which we have discussed. So we basically targeted the low frequency behavior. So in the next class, what we will do is we will understand the high frequency part of this particular thing. Now we discuss this. Next we will discuss this particular part. So if you do not have any questions, then it's okay. And you can see now, you know, something like this, you know, this S is, you know, coming this side and S is going on the numerator also. So you can see that, you know, the behavior is similar to this particular architecture which we discussed when we started our discussion. You can see here for this circuit, you have, you know, S at the numerator and S at the denominator also. So this particular format or this particular, you know, transfer function has this behavior. So we are actually, you know, getting the roll off at the low frequency because of this capacitor. And similarly here, if you see, you have two S's. One is this S coming this side, and when you take in the numerator, it is again coming. So this behavior is also like this. So if you do not have any questions, so maybe in the next class what we will do is we will understand the second part where your gain falls off at high frequency. Okay, thank you.